Good morning, Warriors! Back with another episode of Vigor Warriors 2 and the 1% Club. Hope you guys are doing well today. Hope you guys had a nice weekend, nice 4th of July weekend. Hope everything is on track. Speaking of that, this is going to be our topic today. We had a nice comment, I think over the weekend, or maybe it was last week, late last week, from DH, talking about falling off the track, and I have a lot of experience with that, so we'll talk about that one in a couple minutes. But go ahead and subscribe, please. I think we're at 420, so we're moving up little by little, and I appreciate everything you guys are doing to keep us going along and keep information. More importantly, that you guys are getting some information and maybe a little bit of inspiration to kind of keep you going on this pattern. I think I've hit 760 days now, so we're in good shape. You know, we have been tempted at times, but we're still moving ahead. I think the hard mode is very difficult, so that's something I'm going to keep working at. But the idea that is trying to get it out of your mind completely is one of the keys to getting back on track, and we'll talk about that. But anyway, go ahead, subscribe, comment, like. Once again, everything is greatly appreciated. So DH is talking about that he kind of fell off the track a little bit. Well, that's a common thing, my friend. So Warrior, don't worry about that. It's if you do this as part of your lifestyle, then you're not going to really, kind of beat yourself up over it. It happens. I mean, it happened to me for 40 some years. Now, it wasn't part of my lifestyle at the time, and that was really what the biggest issue was. I think certainly that if it's part of your lifestyle and you've accepted that and you're building that within your, your plan, and this is the way you are going to be, well then, if you do happen to relapse, these things happen. So let's go ahead and kind of concentrate on what can you do when those things happen. And obviously, I think DH was talking about that he went to work out, which is a good idea. Do something in which you're getting your mind off of the actual, the pictures and things you did. The key as you go along, and I'm finding this out as I'm going into 700 and, like I said, 60 days of this, is that you have to kind of shift your attention, shift your energy to something else. And the more attention you give to something like these things that we're talking about, especially the pictures and things like that, or images you have in your mind, the harder it is to break away. And it becomes a habit because you kind of enjoy that, moving into that type, back into that. And so you have to find other things that are just as enjoyable to do, whether it's working out, or whether it's a hobby, like I have several different hobbies, or whether it's your family, or whether it's kind of, the person the one person you're with. If you're with your wife or your husband or your girlfriend or boyfriend, something like that, and you're a male or a female, depending on which one you are, you're going to go ahead and get your mind away from this negative attitude you're going to create. Because once again, it goes back to that analogy that I always use, which I think is a great analogy, is that the birds are going to fly over you. I saw some interesting videos on what attracts men and women, and I was looking at the one that attracted women to men, and they talk about all these type of things where a lot of the women can give men signs that they're attracted to them. And I see it all the time because I'm more aware of it because of the benefits of our retention. And I see it more often because I'm more in tune to it because, once again, I know the birds are going to fly over my head, but you can't let them nest in your head. That's when you get hurt, right? And that's when you get temptation, and that's when all of a sudden things fall apart and you're relapsing before you know it. So the thing is, what you have to do is you have to keep that line in your mind of saying, okay, I understand what's happening here, but I'm also going to go ahead and say, no, I can't do this. I've got to stop this. I've got to go back to focusing on something else. So one of the keys DH, is to, like you did, focus on something else. Now, once again, everything is a habit. We sometimes fall into bad habits. These type of things we're talking about, losing energy, is a bad habit because it ends up hurting you more than helping you. You know, short-term pleasure ends up having long-term, guilt, pain, things like that. Now, when you're sitting there then and saying, okay, what am I going to focus on? Well, obviously the key is to focus on things like goals, hobbies, working out, doing things to improve yourself. This is a way to transmute that energy to another part of your body. Get it away from down your productive glands and all that and move it up to a different area. And once again, I do something like deep breathing. I hold one finger to my one nose and then I blow out the other. And then I calm down, I relax, and I try to imagine and think of myself moving that energy up. Right? Anybody that has a strong sexual nature is going to have sexual energy. I mean, that's what God has given it to us for. But the problem really is that as you are doing this, you're wasting a lot of energy on things that are not going to, is not for the intended use of that energy. I mean, the intended use of the energy is not to just have self-pleasure, but basically to procreate. And if you're not using it for that purpose, then you really should not be using it, and it should be used for other energy level types of things. And that's why when we look at this whole thing, it's important to recognize how important that is. So as we focus on, keeping our mind away from those things, remember, you're transferring your stuff to other things. Now, as you do this on your streak longer, you become stronger. So, a little bit of thought here and there is not necessarily going to hurt you because you're going to be able to get back on track. Obviously, if it gets to too much of an extreme, then it becomes a problem. And that's when you have to really be careful and watch it. But the idea that you're talking about is really important here, because as you look at this DH, it's important to understand that why you fell off at this time you did. I took a lot of time to try to examine myself. Why did I keep falling off? And I found the biggest reason that I fell off is I was not really committed to this long term. I was committed to this more of a short term type of thing, and I really didn't believe long term this was important. And now the difference is, over his last 760 days, I now believe this is important. And as I do this is really, to me, more of a life and death situation, at my age especially. And as I said, I'm 61, so at this point in time, it's my mind that this is life and death. And so I look at it this way. And this is something that, obviously when you're 20, 30 years old, you're not going to look at it this way. But I look at this and I say the consequences of this is not healthy for me. And in fact, at my age, may be fatal for me. Now, I say that, and I guess I don't mean it in the literal sense in some ways. But in some ways, it is connected. So let's look at this for a second. So in my age, right, a lot of people who are 61, start getting a lot of medical type issues. Now, I feel unbelievable. I've been sick for at least 10 years. And I attribute a lot of that to the Fountain of Youth stuff that I use, but I also attribute it to this thing, to what we're talking about as well. Part of it, too, is the fact that I think as you look at this whole idea, it's important to recognize that you are kind of throwing away things that help your body become more resistant. And as time goes on, those things are crucial for you to be able to be happy, be healthy, and have a lot of health benefits that you wouldn't get. So, for instance, if you start releasing again, I'm really concerned in my case that I'm not going to be as strong, and that I may end up getting other types of diseases. I really believe that a lot of this stuff that we've been going through with the pandemic and everything, I never got it. I never had to take anything for it or anything like that. And I primarily think it's because of all the retention and things that I've been doing. You know, I think that's a key thing, a key reason for my resistance in my body, because of my strength is 100%. Now, I'm not as strong as I would have been back in the 20s and 30s with testosterone and all this, the energy you're keeping. But on the other hand, it's better than what I was doing over when I was in my 50s. And I think that this is a major thing that I think about all the time when I'm faced with a sense, well, you know, should you release or not? Now, once again, I don't believe the doctors, I don't believe a lot of these people who are telling you that it's okay to go ahead and release all the time. I mean, it's been this for 2 years, and I have not seen the negative effects of, you know, not releasing. And so I believe that there's a lot more positive effects of this now. And as I go through this more and longer, I even believe it longer and more. I believe it more now than I did before. After 760 days, I believe that this is the way you should live life. This is the way the man is the strongest, is when they are at the point where, you know, they're not releasing and they're holding it in and transmuting it. And like I said before, a lot of these other kind of diseases and things could take you over. And I believe at my age, so DH, I'm really more concerned at the point, not scared is not a good term, but really concerned about releasing energy. Now, maybe at 61, I'm looking at this a lot different than you guys at 20 and 30. And I looked at it totally different when I was at 20 and 30 as well, and in 40s. Because you felt like you have a long time to live. Now, in my case, you know, I feel like I could still live a long time, but I don't want to move that process forward more by throwing away all my energy. I love what's happening to me now. I'm in very, very good condition. You know, I have a few, you know, minor aches and things here, but nothing like I did back when I was in the 30s. When I was in my 30s, because of all my football injuries, I had to do something because I had so much different types of pain, and my health-wise, I felt terrible. Luckily, I found this Fountain of Youth book, and that's where this all started back in 1998, and I have felt unbelievable. I think I've been sick once or twice in 20 years, and I can kind of attribute those type of situations to things that, you know, around me. But it's when I don't do these type of things it happens. So that's why I say that if you continue keeping on with this, and you go back and start a new streak, DH, and you go ahead and say, okay, we're going to go ahead and start this again, and you're going to continue doing it, all of a sudden now you have that potential, that idea that this is going to keep you living healthier, stronger, and more vigorous as time goes on. This is why I've always called this the Vigor Channel, because what you're talking about is trying to make yourself more vigorous, having more energy, having more vitality, having more of the essence of what a man really is. And a man is masculine energy, strong energy that continues to work, help society, build, protect, all the types of things that men do. And I don't care what's happening in the world today, this is what men do. And, you know, that's not going to change. They could try to bastardize things as much as possible, but that's not the way it's going to be. And God knows that this is the way men are and this is the way women are. I mean, we've had these situations over and over again. The dynasties that have fallen in the past have all had these same type of people who feel, well, I'm progressive or I'm new age and all this kind of stuff. And they find the same thing was always the case. We've always had these type of deviant behaviors. And part of this is we didn't have necessarily pornography, but you had pictures, you had people. It's the same kind of deal. It just wasn't on the internet. We didn't have the internet, things like that. But it's the same principle. And so the thing is that you have those type of things that people were fighting with back in the old days, back in the different types of eras we're talking about. So it's no different than now. The only difference is that human beings still have to kind of deal with that temptation, that ability to kind of, try to fight these type of things that they see. So when we look at the situation, it's really important to understand that you have to be able to control the temptation that you're seeing. And this is the whole thing. And so this is why I would really recommend, especially for DH, but I think all of us have had these situations, trying to kind of build a battle plan B. If you all of a sudden have these birds flying overhead and you don't want them to nest in your head, what can you do to go ahead and kind of get your mind off it? Well, find some hobbies, do some things outside of that. That's the first thing. Get yourself active, right? Get your mind to the point where you have other activities. And if you build that habit enough and long enough, then whenever you're tempted to go back, just reflect back and say, okay, I'm doing this and getting away from it. The key is the first few minutes away from doing what you're doing is important. Find something else to refocus your mind, and you'll see your mind becomes a lot clearer as time goes on. You get your mind away from those things that are leading to the situation. And what you're trying to do then is put yourself in a position where now your mind is focusing on things like God, health, money, all these other things that you want. You're getting away from just the focusing on the women all day long. And that's the whole key. You'll open up a whole new life as you continue that. Now, DH, I know you've been on this for a month or two, and so before this happened, so I understand you'll have no trouble getting back, because once you do this and you build a habit, you can get back on track and get back on the road and your journey right away. But the idea that you really want to do is you want to continue to have barriers up there for yourself in case things happen again. All right, so hopefully DH just kind of helps you kind of think about getting back on track. The main thing is to not let those birds in your head up and make a nest, by getting your mind off of this and refocusing on things that are going to benefit you. It could be things like working out, it could be hobbies, it could be your goals. I always have goals written down, so whenever this type of stuff happens, I can always refer back to the goals and try to start thinking about the goals. But get the mind, direct the mind, and you can direct the mind. You have a little power to do that. God's given you some power to do that. Direct the mind off of the girls and direct the mind right on something else. And it could be, if you have some brothers and sisters, it could be your family, it could be working on a project or something like that. I always find working on things in the yard, which I've been doing the last couple of days, gives you a chance to kind of use that energy in productive ways instead of non-productive ways. Right now I'm going to work, and helping out some youngsters. This type of stuff gets my mind off of any kind of possibility like that. So, all right, my friends. Well, I hope you guys have a great day. And DH, thanks a lot for the comments and questions. I hope you're back on track on the journey. Always, you can always contact me if you need some help on questions. Please do so. Hope you guys have a great day. This is July 5th. Be a nice Independence Day. And you guys have a great day, and we'll talk to you soon. God bless you guys, and battle on.